The first rodeo of the season starts in the Music City. Can the Oil make it 2 wins in a row? We get you set for the Oilers of the Predators here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show. Tom Gazzola with you live on location. Hudson's White Avenue. It is so good to be back as people finishing up work, coming on down. There's a party of ladies, a little work, beverages, and bite to eat over there in the back room, and people are starting to trickle in for tonight's game. Hernan Salas holding things down back at EST HQ. We know it's been a rough day. Our provider has been giving us fits.
Don't swing. Stone base. Thank you. Steel third.
All right, get into the nasty chat if you're watching us on YouTube, and then, of course, text us 780-218-9999. It is all-day happy hour here at Hudson's on White Ave. That means $5 fries, $6 pregame frickles. I just had them. They were great. $6 hummus and veggies, $7 chicken tendies, $8 Hogtown riblets, $10 grilled cheese, and $12 coconut shrimp. And if you want the all-Canadian burger, $15. Drink specials, of course, $5 highballs, $5 house draft, $5 Corona Sunbrew, and if you're the vino type, $6 house wine. That is Hudson's White Avenue, and we'll be down at Hudson's Bourbon Street on Saturday. All right, let's get you set with lineups and game notes for tonight's action before we bring in Reed Wilkins. For the Oilers tonight, McDavid centering Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with Vasily Podkolzin and Victor Arvidsson, Adam Henrique centering Jeff Skinner and Connor Brown, and then on that fourth line, Derek Ryan with Matthias Janmark and Corey Perry. On defense for the Oil, Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Stetcher, Kulak with Emerson, no Travis Dermott. That is the same lineup that got the win the other night against the Flyers. As for the Nashville Predators, here's what we're anticipating from them tonight as they seek their first win of the season. Ryan O'Reilly between Philip Forsberg and Gustav Nyquist. Tommy Novak centering Steve Stamkos and Luke Evangelista. Colton Sissons between Mark Jankowski and Jonathan Marchessault. Michael McCarron centering Cole Smith and Philip Tomasino. On the back end for the Preds tonight, Roman Josi with Dante Fabro. Brady Shea with Luke Shen, who's celebrating his 1,000th NHL game. And then Jeremy Lauzon with Alexander Carrier, out for the Predators, Juuso Parssinen. That brings us now to starting goalies for the Edmonton Oilers. 32-year-old Calvin Pickard getting the nod. Are you surprised Pickard's getting the start tonight? His second of the season, third appearance. He is 0-1 so far this year. .417 goals against average, .778 save percentage in 2 games in 24-25. Lifetime versus the Predators. Pickard an 0-4 mark with a .357 GAA, .902 save percentage in 5 appearances versus Nashville throughout the course of his career. And then at the other end of the rink, it is going to be 29-year-old UC Saros, 0-2 this season, .419 GAA, .855 save percentage in his 2 games that he's played. Saros lifetime versus the Oilers, 3-5-1 is his record. He's got a .306 goals against average, .916 save percentage, 2 shutouts out of those 3 wins for Saros versus the Oilers in 10 appearances against Edmonton. That brings us now to the Advantage Sports Medicine Injury Report. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. Whether you're recovering from an injury or looking to enhance performance, we treat you like a pro, using the same locker room approach trusted by the best in the game. For the Oilers, the one injury of note and significance would be Evander Kane. You're going to be hearing that a lot in the early parts of this season. LTIR abdominal surgery. And then we'll throw in Roby Järventie, who is dealing with knee reconstruction that he continues to recover from. I know he's been on the ice still in Edmonton as he heals that up. That's a major injury for the youngster. You'll recall Järventie traded to Edmonton in exchange for Xavier Bourgault and Tyler Tullio. For Nashville, nothing really significant injury-wise. They do have a couple of players listed. Spencer Stasny, IR personal, and then Austin Roast, IR undisclosed. So there are your lineups, there are your starting goalies, and there is your Advantage Sports Medicine Injury Report. 780-218-9999. And then if you're watching on YouTube, get into the nasty chat. Let's see if Hernan and Reed are ready to go. Boys, if you're ready, hop on. Hello, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on today, Riedrich. I know I'm cutting into your show.
No, it's good. This is awesome, man. This is the first road game of the year. It's a good matchup.
And Hernan, how are you? I know it's been a disaster over there today, but we're slugging through it, right?
We're making it work. So just FYI, everything cut out, or the board froze.
I was humming along. I was like, what a great to be back on location. The connection here is excellent. Everything looks nice in the background, the nice fall weather. You got the rush hour traffic happening, and then boom, I'm like, what's going on? But we're back, boys. We got it all figured out.
Yeah, we're good to go now, buddy.
Thankfully, we're rocking and rolling. All right, keep those texts coming in. Your thoughts on tonight's action as the Oilers look for a second consecutive victory. Hernan, do you want to throw up the question of the night, and then I'm going to bounce some things off of Reed? How do you want to do this? It's up to you, buddy.
Yeah, let's go with the question of the night. It's a simple one. It's the only line change coming tonight, so it's just gonna be a simple one. Do you agree with Chris Knoblauch going with Calvin Pickard between the pipes? It's early in the season. There's only been one back-to-backs, which is over the weekend, and these are 2 very important games. I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised they went with Calvin Pickard here. I thought Skinner would get both these games, so that is the question of the day, of the early evening, I guess, Tom, is are you okay with Chris Knoblauch going to Calvin Pickard in this game tonight?
All right, text in your answer, 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat. I know, Reed, you were talking about this earlier with Jay on the Reed Wilkins show, the smash hit from 3 to 6 here on EST. Where do you come out on this one? Were you surprised when you found out it was going to be Pickard?
I would say mildly, because I think Skinner's last 2 games have been pretty good. But I also think, okay, Pickard's going to play a third of the games. You know, if he plays around 27, 28 games, like a backup goaltender. Mm-hmm. So he started the 2nd game of the season. Now he's starting the 5th game of the season. And I'm going to guess he's going to start the 8th game of the season, because that's at Pittsburgh. That's home against Pittsburgh next Friday. And by the way, he had that awesome game against Pittsburgh last year in which he didn't get credit for the shutout, even though he made all the saves and played over 15 minutes of the game. But he missed the end of the second period because he was in concussion protocol. So, you know, I'm just thinking, breaking it down, you probably want Skinner in goal against Dallas, rematch of the final. Carolina's here on Tuesday. Skinner gets Pittsburgh. And then the 9th and 10th games of the season are back-to-back on the 27th and 28th, Detroit and Columbus. So those are probably split. So Pickard will probably wind up starting 4 of the first 10 games of the season. And then there are a couple back-to-backs in November, but there are also some gaps. So that maybe Skinner can sort of pull away in terms of the number of starts. Jay asked me, it was probably more or less planned this way. I mean, I know they do a lot of different scenarios, but I think they wanted to start Pickard in 2 of the first 6 games of the season. So you knew he was getting one of the back-to-backs, and then he was getting either Philly, Nashville, or Dallas. And I also think you probably don't want him sitting too long with a .778 save percentage.
Good point.
I know he only allowed 1 goal in Winnipeg. He kind of came in when the game was already over. Probably at least a goal, if not 2, against Chicago, that you wanted maybe a little sharper performance from him. So you want to make sure he's feeling good. And I think he'll get tested tonight, because this should be, and if it's not, then that's going to be the storyline in Nashville. This should be an angry Predators team coming out of the gate tonight.
Yeah, Predators off to a rough start, 0-3 thus far this season. The Preds coming off a tough loss the other night, 7-3 to Seattle Tuesday. And, no disrespect to Seattle, but it's not a formidable opponent. And you look at the Preds on paper, Reed, and you go, that looks like a pretty good team. And they had a surprisingly good season as well. They locked up UC Saros. They have one of the best defensemen in the league in Roman Josi. And then they have some other good pieces of guys. Luke Shen celebrating 1,000 games. They have some elements to their team that would indicate that they should be able to make some noise in a very tough Central Division and in the Western Conference. But here they are, frustrated, like you said, searching for their first win. Stamkos looking for a point. Marchessault looking to score for the first time with the Predators. It's a bit of an anomaly, and it reminds us that starts of the season can be a little bit fickle, right?
Yeah, and I guess, for oil country, maybe worried about when does the dam break for Nashville. When does the law of averages catch up and they win a game, or those guys score some goals. Look, I had high expectations for the Predators this season. I still think they'll be a playoff team. I mean, they were my cup pick, which I admit partially I did just to be a little bit different. But I do think, not only do I think they're going to be a good team this year, I really think it's worth acknowledging that they have been a very, very good franchise. They have not had, the seasons where they've been a bottom feeder. Even last year, 2 years ago, they missed the playoffs after trading Ekholm and making some other moves and still hung around. They got in last year after it appeared maybe they weren't going to be very good. They had a run in February and March of 16-0-2, so, and then they added Stamkos and Marchessault. And looking at their lineup, guys, I think that's a pretty good set of 12 forwards. I know, okay, you can say McCarron and Tomasino aren't stars, but they're guys you sort of notice, right? Like Tomasino, he's been in the league a few years. You kind of notice him, right? He's involved in the play, as a depth player. And you mentioned Josi and Fabro. I guess maybe their D isn't as deep as it used to be, but they used to have the best top 4 in the NHL about 8 or 9 years ago. So, yeah, and Saros in net is an excellent goaltender. So I think this team will break out. I do think they'll have an extended run of good hockey where they'll bank points and get into a playoff spot. But tonight, you don't want that to start. A chance for the Oilers to jump on them. And jump would be one of my key words for Edmonton tonight. Yeah. As in actually have some. Because they, for most of their first 12 periods, they didn't have nearly enough. But the last 40 minutes against Philadelphia was pretty encouraging. And
guys, another storyline to watch today, both power plays struggling. Oilers 1 for 9. Nashville's 1 for 11. But on the flip side, Nashville's PK has been pretty good. And the Oilers PK's, probably last in the league right now, at just over 50%. So that's a good little matchup to watch to see if the PK of the Oilers can withstand a very bad power play there in Nashville. Because we talked to Alex Dodery today from there, and he said the defense is playing bad. The goaltending hasn't been good. The forwards are not playing well. They're shuffling the lines again. They're putting Stamkos with a couple of young guys. But he said the special teams, he goes, the power play hasn't been able to get anything going. So I'm intrigued between that power play and the Oilers PK because both units are struggling mightily.
Well, let's dip into the power play stats for both of these teams going into this game. I know it's super early. 3 games already for the Predators, 4 for the Oilers. Edmonton's power play, like you were talking about, Nat, so 24th in the NHL at 11.1%. 1 for 9, and then you got the PK at 31st. After going 5 for 5 after allowing the first 2 to go in against Philly, that has elevated them to 56.3%. They have slightly eclipsed the Colorado Avalanche, who are just under 55% going into action tonight. So both of those teams, two teams that we expected to be very, very good this season, I think they will be ultimately. But with the early season struggles, especially on special teams, that puts Edmonton's special teams combination at what? 67%? Awful.
Yep.
Awful. You're aiming for 100. The Preds, meanwhile, not great on the power play. 1 for 11. That's good for 9.1%. 27th in the NHL as of today. And then the PK is 7th at 87.5%. So that's much better when it comes to the Preds on their special teams. So it's interesting, and I know the numbers are skewed. You look at goalie stats, too, in these first few games, and you get these ridiculous numbers, but a little bit of an indicator there, and maybe the Oilers are going to figure it out, especially on the power play, where Reed, I think it's safe to say they've been way too cute, right?
Yes, but I also am hesitant to criticize this power play unit for passing the puck a lot. Because now, having said that...
Why can't you be angry like me?
Well, sometimes I am.
I know. I love it.
But, okay, I will say this. The one player I'd like to see shoot more is Bouchard. I mean, he's taken... I think he's taken one slap shot this season, and it went in the net, and then it got disallowed.
Right.
On the Hyman. No, that wasn't a power play. And I know guys, defenders, are jumping into the lane, and you don't want a shot blocked, but I also think... Bouchard firing a slap shot on the power play, I mean, he might hurt somebody. Unfortunately, he also almost hurt his own teammate last game when he hit Hyman. But fire that puck because it might break a stick. And I realize, well, if it goes off a shin pad and out, it gets cleared. Yes, but that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to bounce. If it gets blocked, it's probably going to bounce somewhere else. And an Oiler is probably going to get there first. And then that's where they really make hay, is off those broken plays and playing street hockey a little bit. Having said that, Tom, I hesitate to criticize McDavid, Draisaitl, or Nugent-Hopkins if they pass up a shot and make an extra pass. Yeah. Because they're not normal power play players, especially when they're together. And I've seen it enough over the years when I've thought to myself, oh, why would he? That's why he passed it. Because McDavid was the only one that saw Draisaitl had a backdoor tap in, or Draisaitl's the only guy that could make that sharp angle shot. So I'll say yes. I'd like Bouchard to shoot more. I don't know if they can be too cute. Like, I kind of give those other three guys free rein to pass the puck as much as they want.
How dare you reason with logic and common sense and a nice open approach to things, Reed? We want closed-mindedness, stubbornness, and just outlandish statements on this show, okay? Jeez, I'm just kidding. I'm being completely facetious. It is the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Tom Gazzola live on location at Hudson's White Avenue. Come on down. I've got a ton of GCs to give away if you're looking to watch the game somewhere and want a bite to eat and maybe a beer or something. It is all-day happy hour here at Hudson's. Reed Wilkins and Hernan Salas inside the EST studios. I saw a couple of texts and nasty chat stuff that I wanted to bounce off you guys that I thought would be funny. And there was a couple that good texts, obviously. And then a couple that I was just like, you got me chuckling there. Okay, let's start with a good one. Wheels, Ola Latif, who's over at the Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge with Francis. They're doing the Dill Pickle podcast right now. Wheels says Pickard will be fine. Tank V says just win and who cares who plays in net. And then Grandpa Dave says play decent defensively in front of Pickard and all will be good. La Bamba guy is going with the negative slant on the Oilers tonight. His handle, La Bamba guy, obviously Oilers related, and his image on YouTube, I am in the nasty chat here, also Oilers related, says Preds -1.5. Sorry, Oil Country. Oilers are notorious slump busters, and the history with the Preds shows this should be a slam dunk. Everything going against us, and La Bamba guy saying us, meaning the Oilers. And then I saw one, I think it was Grandpa Dave as well, and I think he was saying that if the Oilers were playing all the games on paper, they would be 4-0 at this point. So, yeah, well said. But I get it. Like, oh, no, yeah, it was. If on paper, won games, Oilers would be 4-0. So I was paraphrasing you because I remember it, and it was a good, funny little quip that I thought was good. Let's go to DK Sparks, who texts in, says Skinner's got to play better at the start of games and just better in general in order to command the net. Skinner's numbers are no better. 443 GAA, 845 save percentage. Give him the Vezina. That comment about Skinner from DK Sparks playing better at the start of games, Reed and Hernan. I don't know who wants to take this one, but I'll reiterate what Reed said. Is I think he's been pretty darn good these last 2 games.
Yeah, I'm with you. I and that's why I was a little blown away, because if you look at that Philly game, guys, like he made a couple, like 2-3 big saves in that middle frame and early in the third to keep the Oilers in it. So for me, it was one of those things where in a game like this, you're getting a struggling team at home. Their big acquisitions have combined for 2 points, Tom? No goals. They're going to be raring to go. So, and it's nothing against Calvin Pickard, but he's a backup. And
sure.
I always want to see in these kind of games, you go to your starter, especially this early in the season. There's no excuse for being tired or being worn out or anything like that. And you got a day in between games, right, Tommy? So that's why. And I think Skinner was good last game. And even in the one in Calgary, I mean, you're not going to put too many on him. Of course, you want to save here and there. But I think Skinner's getting better and better every game. And he's kind of like Bouchard. They're slow starters, Tom. And we've seen this last year as well. So I think we just got to remain patient. But, I mean, and I don't want people to think that I think the Oilers are going to lose because of Calvin Pickard. I think this is a tough game regardless. I think Skinner keeps this game closer than Pickard does. So that's the only reason I was a little surprised. I wish I would have seen Skinner, because I think he is finding his groove a little bit here.
Rick, where do you come out on this?
Yeah, I did think Skinner played pretty well the last 2 games. And, yeah, he made some important saves against Philadelphia. Even when the Oilers started playing better, they still gave up a few too many chances, I thought. So, but, Pickard tonight, again, I think it's important for Pickard to bounce back and have a good start under his belt, because the relief appearance against Winnipeg may be a little hard to evaluate. I thought
Sure.
Wasn't great against Chicago. The team in front of him wasn't great. It is early. I mean, Saros is one of the best goalies in the league. He's at 855 right now. Obviously, that's not going to last. So, for me, and Jay and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, or maybe even longer, it might have been before camp. Like, I had my top 3 Oilers question marks, and I had Pickard as one of them. Like, I think he's a bigger question mark in net than Skinner, because Skinner has been in the NHL and been the starter for really the last couple of years. And I still think he's been responsible for above average goaltending. I'm not going to say excellent, but I don't think he's a bad goalie. The question I have about Pickard is, okay, really good story last year. Did his job. Really probably only had a couple of nights, off the top of my head that maybe weren't great. Like, played really well.
Yeah, but I think a Florida game maybe.
He's in his 30s, and he hasn't been a full-time NHL goaltender since, 16, 17? And then last year he was on the roster all year. So I think he has more to prove than Skinner. And personally, I'd have more concerns, and I'm not saying massive concerns, but concerns about Pickard over the course of the whole season than I would Skinner, which is why I think this is a really important game for Pickard tonight.
And he's 0-4 lifetime against Nashville, guys. Calvin Pickard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And listen, the Oilers, I think in their last 7 visits, 5-0-2 to Nashville. They've won 10 of the last 12. We've watched McDavid and Draisaitl feast on the Predators over the last handful of years. So I think maybe there's a confidence there. And plus, you got to beat these guys at some point. And if you need to be you need to rely on your backup goalie, and you're expecting him to play maybe 20 games, then he needs to play against some of the teams that historically his numbers might not be good against. And here's an opportunity for Pickard to go out there and have a better night, the team to play better in front of him, and to get back onto the right track here. So I don't mind it. And then, like you said, Reed, you kind of laid it out that there's a plan in place for the goalies. And I believe that's probably true. And we'll see the big dog, Stuart Skinner, go up against the Dallas Stars, which is a team that's coming out of the gates hot. Smitty the Welder texts in via the nasty chat, says Skinner wasn't good in the first period last game. The first 2 goals can't go in. I'm with Smitty the Welder on last game and then the first period. That first goal, I didn't like at all. The second one, Reed, is where I'm curious, because Michkov, the first goal was a stinker, his first career goal, but that second one, was it Skinner's fault or did he just get beat by a really skilled player? Because when Draisaitl buries those, we go, oh, that's Leon doing what Leon does.
I still think the first goal was goalie interference, quite frankly. So I still think he got his pad pushed out of the way. The second goal,
he did.
Yeah, the second goal, it is a one-timer on the power play. Now you need your goalie to make that stop. When I looked at it, I thought, okay, he's would have been nice for him to get across and stop that, even though Michkov can fire it. I guess I just got to say, though, to Smitty and everybody else, we say, well, I didn't like this goal. Well, watch other goalies. I mean, what's the difference between the Michkov goal and Connor Brown's goal in the second period? It's a one-timer that went right through the goalie. I mean, stuff happens. You know what I mean? Like, I just hesitate to say every goal is a bad goal because it went in. And I know maybe he's not necessarily saying that, but I mean, you kind of got to look at the body of work. And I think Skinner's body of work the last 2 games has been good. Yes, you can nitpick any individual goal along the way or not, but the bottom line was his team. I mean, I also look at situational things. His team was down 2-0 after the first period. His team was down 3-2 after the second period. He was in situations where he knew there was very little leeway, and he won the game, right? So I still think at the end of the day, if you want to evaluate that game, if it becomes 3-0 Philadelphia, they probably lose. If it becomes 4-2 Philadelphia, they probably lose. Skinner was a big reason why it never reached those scores.
It also is worth noting that the third goal that the Flyers scored was actually put in by Matthias Ekholm. So
that's a good point. Yeah. No one's stopping that one, right? Well, just bad luck.
I mean, if you got razor sharp Cujo-like reflexes, maybe you get on that one. But Ekholm batted that one home, redirected it. It wasn't a particularly great goal. But I'll say this to Smitty's point, Smitty the Welder, that the whole team was bad in the first period. Like, that was an atrocious first period, boys. And they bounced back, thankfully, if you're an Oiler fan. And we'll see if they can continue to play like they did in the second and third, or if they revert back to being, dog poop for the most part in the early parts of this season. What do you think we see tonight, Reed, before we say goodbye to you again and let you get out of there a little bit early?
Well, I'll tell you what I hope I see from an Oilers perspective, and that's I hope I see an energized top 6, quite frankly.
Good. For the first time.
Yeah, great. Of course, they got talent. They made plays to tie it late in regulation, and the big guys made the play to win it in overtime. But I hope they take a little bit of a cue from how Brown and Henrique scored in the second period. And as much as I kind of give them a free pass to move the puck around, I almost would like to see them 5-on-5 simplify it a little bit, get across the blue line and funnel it to the net. I mean, you do have Hyman in the top 6. He can crash the net. You do have Podkolzin and Arvidsson playing with Nuge. They can occupy space in front of the net. The Henrique goal, I mean, Janmark puts it on net from an angle that you will almost never score from, and Henrique is going in a straight line to the net. Now, then he has to have the skill to make that great backhand, but he wasn't like, I'm going to come around behind Matthias and get a drop pass, and then, like, it was, okay, straight, like that's how you teach little kids. You shoot and your buddy gets the rebound and scores. And then the Brown goal, hard forecheck, Nurse holds it in. Nurse didn't even look at the net. He just threw it cross ice. And then Jeff Skinner got it and passes to Brown. Quick shot. No dusting it off, no fiddling with it. Quick shot. It's in the net. So,
right.
And then even the way Nurse made that play, if Skinner's not there, it still goes into the far corner and keeps the forecheck going. So simplify it and play direct and play with a little bit more passion from the top guys, which is interesting because I think the depth guys played with most of the spark 2 days ago.
I will second that, Reed Rick. A fired up, spicy Reed Wilkins. Thanks for sticking around for the first part of this show, buddy, and great work on the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne. I will see you tomorrow, my friend.
I salute you.
There you go. There's Reed Wilkins. Big thank you to him for joining us for the first half of the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Hernan Salas back in studio. Tom Gazzola here on location Hudson's White Ave as we kick off another year in partnership with Hudson's. I've got a ton of GCs to dish out. Come by, see me, and it is all day happy hour here at Hudson's. Matty Cassian will be on the way shortly, as I remind folks that since I am here at Hudson's, portions of this hour brought to you by Hudson's, Canada's Pub. You're invited tonight to watch the Oilers game, and it's all day happy hour. Also, $5 house draft featuring the new Blueberry Blonde Ale. Book your reservation now at hudsons.com or come on down and see me. Regardless, it's up to you. hudsonscanadaspub.com. And we'll be back on location Saturday as the Oilers take on the Dallas Stars. We'll be at the Bourbon Street location for that one. All right, Matt Cassian is ready to go. He is at his satellite studios. He's got his party cardi on, and let's get into Game Changers with Matt Cassian, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. Damon Bunting, of course, top-selling real estate agent in the greater Edmonton area and among Western Canadian RE/MAX realtors. He and his team would love to help you find the right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. What's up, Cass? I know you've been a busy boy today. You made it in time. What you been up to?
Yeah, busy boy, fighting a little bit of the sniffles, but I got this. I mean, there's just always lots of stuff going on with the kids in the Cassian household. So you're juggling a lot of schedules for a whole bunch of little women. So along with the emotions and the words that go along with that. So it's there's always something going on, Tommy. But we're good. I'm good. Excited to watch a little bit of hockey tonight.
Me too. And a little bit of an earlier start, which is appreciated. All right, Cass, let's dive right into it. Also, if anybody wants to text in and has any questions for Cass or comments, 780-218-9999. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, get in the nasty chat. All right, number one tonight, Cass, on Game Changers, it is cornered prey.
Yeah, interesting situation. You're not... Just like we were shocked, appalled, horrified, disappointed in Edmonton's 0-3 start, so too are the Nashville Predators and the Nashville Predators faithful in Smashville. Not the start they anticipated, and quite frankly, not the start I anticipated or a lot of people anticipated. They were a team that, when we looked at the players that they brought in heading into the season, that they were going to be much, much improved, that they were going to have more offense, that they were going to be a contending team in a lot of ways, make some waves, make a splash. And they've fallen pretty flat the first three games. Now, they were in that game against the Dallas Stars, but since then, there hasn't been much push from the Nashville Predators. Now, coming back home, they don't want to go 0-4, and they don't want to go 0-3 to start the season at home. So you are going to get a Nashville Predator team that is going to be saying all the kinds of things that we can imagine were being said in the Edmonton Oilers dressing room about playing at home, protecting your home ice, not wanting to get behind in the season, about needing to make a statement, about needing to come together as a team. There is going to be all kinds of that talk in that dressing room. And Tommy, if you're the Edmonton Oilers, you have to be prepared for a Nashville Predators team that is going to throw everything they have at you, particularly right off the hop at the start of the game. They know Edmonton, and maybe reputationally even the last couple years, hasn't been the best team at starting hockey games. And they're going to look at this and they're going to say, we have an opportunity here. Yes, Edmonton won, but they started really slow against Philly. They didn't have a great start to that hockey game, and they haven't had great starts for the entirety of this short season so far. So you're going to see a Nashville team that, Tom, is just going to come flying out of the gate. There's veteran guys now in that dressing room that are going to want to have an impact that maybe haven't had that much of an impact so far. And Tom, you're going to see the Nashville Predators, particularly early, just chomping at the bit here to try to win the game in the first 5 or 10 minutes for the Edmonton Oilers. You have to be prepared for that. You can't have that same slow start that you have had so far this season. I mean, this has to be all systems go here right from the drop of the puck.
Cass, before we get into number two of Game Changers, this is something that Reed was talking about towards the end of his hit. And it was how the slow starts were also involving the biggest stars on this team. Like, we haven't seen the McDavid, Draisaitl's, Hymans, Nugent Hopkins play particularly well until actually the third period, and then OT where they had a fortuitous bounce in pond hockey, essentially, and managed to take advantage of a rebound. Are you concerned about the big dogs kind of struggling out of the gates here and not establishing good starts, or do you think that'll come around in the Oilers' depth being able to kind of pinch hit for that scenario?
Yeah. Well, you need your depth to pinch hit when your big boys are struggling. And there's always going to be those ebbs and flows during the season. A little unique that they haven't really hit their stride, and it is right at the start of the year. Usually it happens down the line a little bit, and you're not shocked by that. And you do need your depth players in that instance. And am I worried about McDavid and Draisaitl and them being able to put away points and get the train rolling? No, I don't think there's any need to be. They've been too good for too long. They didn't take a massive step back. Their skill didn't just magically disappear. I don't think they're struggling with the yips here. Like they're going to be fine.
Yeah,
they're going to be fine. Now, I think there are other things to be concerned of, but to look at it and to say, I'm not really concerned that those guys at some point here are going to start getting their legs underneath them and putting the puck in the back of the net. I don't worry about it.
McDavid, 4 points in 4 games. Draisaitl, 3 points in 4 games, and he was the first star of the game, a deceptive first star the other night in the win against the Philadelphia Flyers. All right, it is Game Changers with Matt Cassian. Number 1 was cornered prey. Number 2, and this was part of the question of the night as well from Hernan, Pickarding your spot. Cass, what do you got for us?
Yeah, well, how can we not talk? And I know you guys have talked about it a little bit already, but how do we not talk about Calvin Pickard starting today? Now, came as a shock to some people, as a surprise to others. How could they do this? What's going on? To me, this was probably planned from the beginning. You're looking at these games and you're looking at Stuart Skinner's overall workload over the course of the season. You're not just thinking this little segment, you're looking over the course of the year. We want to make sure Pickard's getting in, that he's feeling confident and comfortable. He's getting reps, and not just against bottom feeder teams, because you might need him against good teams at some times. And when you look at the schedule and you go, okay, you know what? I understand that there's rest days here, so you probably could run Stuart Skinner. But if you want Skinner to play between that 50 to 55 games overall over the course of a season, which is probably the ideal number, you got to work in Pickard. And here's an opportunity to do so. And then you get Stuart Skinner against the Dallas Stars, and he's going to be fresh and ready. And they're probably a better team. Actually, I wouldn't say probably. They are, not just record-wise, but they are a better team than the Nashville Predators. So to me, I was just kind of like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. You want to manage Stuart Skinner's workload over the course of the year, and this is an opportunity to do it. Not that you want to focus on just looking ahead to the playoffs. You need to win hockey games, but you need, regardless of who's in net, to win hockey games. So I'm totally fine with it. It'd be nice to see him come out and have a solid game. You've been a little bit dicey in front of him on the season so far. So an opportunity for the Edmonton Oilers against a Nashville team that has struggled so far in the year. Again, I think they're going to come out all guns blazing, but for Calvin Pickard to step in and to have a night.
Does Calvin Pickard's historical or career record in numbers against the Nashville Predators affect your train of thought with this at all? 0-4, 357 GA, 902 save percentage in the 5 appearances he's had against the Preds. No. Okay.
No, not for me. I know for some people will probably look at that, but for me, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah. All right. That was number 2 on Game Changers with Matt Cassian. Pickarding your spot. Let us know your thoughts. 780-218-9999. And then number 3 on Game Changers tonight, Cass. This one, you look at the numbers. I know it's early, but still kind of makes you chuckle. Penalty killing issues continue. Please go on. They
continue. And, speaking of, earlier was talking about other things to be concerned. I'm not concerned about McDavid and Draisaitl and their ability to produce points and to have success 5-on-5 and on the power play. I'm not concerned ultimately about the power play. Power plays, listen, they're going to be one of the best in the NHL again. They will. No worries, no questions, not concerned. Now, the penalty kill, well, that's another story. Because of the amount of players that you have transitioned here, I think it's okay to look at this and to question the quality and their ability to kill penalties. And so far, Tom, it's been absolutely horrible. It's been absolutely horrible here.
Yes.
You're last place in the league. You've given up 7 goals on 16 attempts. It is just not good. Now, on the plus side, heading into tonight, you're in first on the road for your penalty killing on the road, mostly because you haven't played on the road. But you're starting off from a good place, maybe. But Tom, the penalty kill has been too leaky. There's been too many guesses. There's been too much disjointedness where the group of 4 has not executed cleanly. They have not. And when one guy goes, it's been one guy going and then the other guy kind of going, well, should I maybe not go? And it just has completely fallen apart. And, there's some people that may blame it on goaltending, and yeah, that plays a part in it too. But I think the unit is 4 just has not found ways to get the job done. They have found ways to lose men in front of the net. They have found ways to turn the wrong way when they should be pushing people one way. They're letting them go the other way, not collapsing back to the front of the net, not helping out the goaltenders. The PK just hasn't been good enough, Tom. Now, maybe, and we talk about it all the time, or we would in the dressing room. It's always interesting how different teams play different at home versus away. And realistically, there shouldn't be a difference. In good teams, maybe there's less. Like, you kind of just play the same wherever you are. But we always talked about sometimes how teams have better power play records on the road because they just simplify, and sometimes they have better penalty killing on the road for the same reason. They just simplify, and they're not worried about the home crowd. They're not worried about this. They're putting on a show. Not that that's even something that you're overly cognizant of, but it just seems to seep out of your pores and out of your brain for whatever reason. So maybe an opportunity here to start fresh on the road, to say, hey, we got to simplify, got to be road warriors, right? Got to play that simple road game. We're going on the road here. It doesn't have to be fancy. We just have to make it work. So an opportunity for that penalty kill to improve. But Tommy, they've been absolutely awful so far. Absolutely awful. Now, if they were in like the 70% range, you go, okay, they kind of struggled a little bit, but there's room to turn it around. I mean, Tom, you're at 56% on the penalty kill. That cannot continue. It has been atrocious, and Tom, they need to figure this thing out.
They have vaulted themselves into 31st in the NHL, by the way, heading into action today with that late surge on the PK. They killed off 5 at the end of the game, including a 5-on-3 after giving up goals on the first 2 PK attempts to the Flyers. Cass, can they build anything off of that after going 5 for 5? When you came out of the gates 0 for 2, is there something to be said there? And you're right. Like, if one guy makes a mistake or doesn't pick up his assignment, it feels like it's dominoes on the PK.
Yeah, well, maybe that builds a little bit of momentum. But you're still going to be looking at that percentage. You're still going to know that you haven't been good enough. So, yeah, maybe. And you kill enough penalties, you're able to get back into the game. Like, you got kills and you ultimately won the game and won it in overtime. So maybe it helps a little bit. But, Tom, I can't help but thinking, like, and maybe you could answer this, because if it was you, because I know how I would feel, the second the team takes a penalty, where does your mind go right now?
They might get scored on. I'm like,
you're not
this
thinking,
is not
we're going to
good.
kill it. Right.
Yeah.
You're not thinking like, oh, the boys got this. Oh, I get a penalty. I'm going to the box. I'm not thinking, the boys are going to get me. You know what? It's okay. They're going to pick this up for me and we're going to make it work. I'm going like, oh, crap. Like, probably going to get scored on. Like, that's the feeling that you have. And that's going to be the feeling up and down that entire bench until they can sort it out. And so there's like a momentum thing, as you said, that is beneficial, that maybe they built a little bit last game, but the broader overall momentum of this season on the penalty kill is that they have been brutal and they got to find a way. I mean, it's going to be, I don't think it's anything where it's like a one kill or one moment that stems the tide. Now, killing 5-on-3, that can help, right? Like, that probably does a little bit more, where it's like a double advantage situation. So it gets you a little bit more juice. But it really is going to be like that slow process where they're going to have to grind it out, slowly improve that percentage, slowly improve on a night-to-night basis, and hopefully in 10 games look back and say, okay, you know what? From where we were, we've found a way to claw this thing back into relevancy of being a decent penalty kill.
Last season, I think they fell as low as 28th at one point. They're so leaky, Cass. You and I were talking about it every night, basically, how they would allow 1 or 2 against on the PK. And then they managed to vault it up into, I think 15th is where they ended, if I'm remembering it correctly, off the top of my head. So they are capable. It's a matter of execution, and it feels like the execution just hasn't been there consistently for this team thus far. And I'm seeing this coming in from T-Man in the nasty chat says they really need Nuge to be huge very soon. And Nuge hasn't been huge. What are you seeing from him and Hyman so far this season, Cass?
Yeah, well, it kind of ties right into the McDavid and Draisaitl side of it, where they've been a little bit quiet, or really quiet so far. Hyman hasn't been fantastic, hasn't been at his normal self, we'll call it. Now, that called back goal, we don't need to dig into that. Didn't like it, but for both those guys, I wouldn't classify them quite the same as McDavid and Draisaitl, but I still am not as worried about it. Like, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is still a smart player. He's not an ultra goal scorer, but he's gonna find a way to level out his consistency, and I think he's gonna be fine. Like, I'm just not worried about him. I'm not. And really, offensively, on the offensive side of the puck, I'm just not worried about this team in general. The defensive side of the puck is, again, penalty killing and then just defensive zone coverage in general. I think I'm fine with having some concern around that with what we've seen so far, but Nuge will turn it around. Not concerned about that.
Cass, how about Darnell Nurse paired up with Troy Stecher? Did you see a little bit of life there from those two?
Well, Stetcher's a hero, Tom. I don't know if you've heard, but he is a hero. Him and Stuart Skinner may have single-handedly turned the start of the season around. Skinner intentionally getting picked or throwing a pick and getting hit, and Stecher jumping in and getting a scrap going, which was just something I think emotionally to kind of pull everyone together, to unite everybody in a moment. I wish I would have said it on Two Guys, and I wish I would have said it at in one of the other pregame shows. That I would have said is, like, they need something like that. Like, they need to fight, they need to hit, they need something dirty to happen either by them or to them that just kind of unites everyone and pulls it together. And so, yeah, Stetcher's a hero. Philly's not or shouldn't be considered world beaters offensively. I think a lot of what they got, similar to the prior games, Edmonton gave them defensively. So, what good have we seen? I think there was a little bit better puck movement eventually in that game between those two. Stecher is a little bit more of a veteran player, which it almost sounds crazy to say that you need a veteran guy to play with Darnell Nurse, but at times it can, I think, help having a veteran guy to play with Darnell Nurse, because you just are able to read off of his the uniqueness of some of the decisions that he makes. You're able to read off that a little bit.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
Well, I hesitate because I don't want to. I'm not saying that Darnell Nurse isn't a good, capable player. I am not saying that. But at times he does things that are unpredictable, and having a veteran who's able to maybe read off that a little bit better can help with that. And so, did I see a little bit of that? Well, I think you saw Stecher understanding his role in that pairing and maybe being able to play to that. And I think maybe being able to play a little bit better to some of the, we'll call it just the pressure of playing on a second pairing. Again, guy with a little bit more experience. Maybe not quite as vulnerable to succumb to the pressure as like an Emberson is.
Right.
So, for now, it seemed to work a little bit better, and obviously they got the win. Jury's still out.
Yeah. We're still early, but well said. I didn't want to toss a grenade at you, but I was like, I thought I'd get in there with a quick quip. Cass, great stuff on Game Changers on this pregame show, and I look forward to talking to you on the postgame show.
Absolutely, buddy. Don't be too stingy with those GCs. Everybody needs them.
I dish them out like candy. It's like Halloween season, so I may as well. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you on the postgame. There's Matt Cassian with Game Changers, as always, brought to you by GCL Game Changers brought to you by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. This is the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show, live on location at Hudson's White Avenue. VR Montenegro in the house. He is trying the blueberry blonde beer, and he says it is delicious. He also got hooked up with the GC. I might give him another one. That's how good of a guy he is. And it is all-day happy hour. Come on down and check it out. It's starting to fill up. Crowd's getting rowdy. They're excited for the Oilers game. There's a work party in the back. So come on down. Take advantage of the deals and the specials, delicious food, good vibes, and on the corner of White Ave and what street is it? 99th? Gateway Boulevard. That's right. I should know this. I'm from this damn city. All right, Hernan, get yourself on there. Let's get through the last few minutes of the pregame show for the Oilers tonight. It is going to be McDavid with Draisaitl and Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins with Arvidsson and Podkolzin on his wings, Adam Henrique between Jeff Skinner and Connor Brown, then Derek Ryan centering Matthias Janmark and Corey Perry on defense. Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Stetcher, Kulak with Emberson. For the Preds, O'Reilly between Forsberg and Nyquist. Novak with Stamkos and Evangelista. Sissons between Jankowski and Marchessault. McCarron with Cole Smith and Philip Tomazino on defense. Roman Josi, Dante Fabro our pair. Brady Shea with Luke Shen. Jeremy Lauzon with Alexander Carrier. Your goalies for tonight. Calvin Pickard for the Oils, seeking his first win of the season. So too will be UC Saros. Hernan Salas.
Yeah, 1,000 games for Luke Chen tonight. Good on him. He's been kind of all over the place in his NHL career. That's always cool to see. Yeah, Cass's point on the goaltending, probably a scheduled start. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. But this is the thing that concerns me, Tom. Let's just say they drop this game. And they'll be 1-4. And let's just say they don't have a very good month of October into November. We're back where we were last year, right?
Right.
So, and then you got to roll your number one guy a lot, because for me, a day off in October doesn't mean anything come March if Stuart Skinner has to play every game because they're in a fight for a playoff spot, right? So I get it to a certain degree. Let's see if we can get Tom. Tommy, you back?
I'm back.
Yeah, the stream just cut out for a quick sec. The first time on this show, which is pretty good at 5:55. So I'm not going to complain. So
no.
Like I was saying, Calvin Pickard, since he's been with the Oilers, he's done nothing but, he's been a solid goaltender. So
yes.
It's nothing against him again, but I'm just saying if the Oilers were 3-1, then I'd understand it a bit more. I'd be like, okay, I get it. It's a scheduled start.
So I think our provider issues are popping up again.
Yeah, they are.
I think that's a good cue. I have a couple of texts just to wrap up if we're going to do that, because we're almost there. It's almost game time. Mary texting in via the inbox 780-218-9999 says, I think I hear Glad Hudson's. Absolutely. Come on down. Bring Dave. Justin says, good evening, Tommy and the boys. They're going to get it, and they're going to get the win for picks 2 in a row coming up. And then this one from Coach Mike says, are there any tilts tonight? Winless Nashville team looking for a spark. Coach Mike, we could see some, and I'll be honest with you, I don't mind that one bit. And then Donnie M says, hope Nuggy shows up. Donnie M, I think a lot of people. Hudson's White Ave. Ciao for now.